You're listening to the Fantasy Fling Podcast. Take a break from the season-long commitment and join us for a Friday fling as we give you the newest and hottest DFS deals, preview the DFS Main Slate, and take the dreadful walk of shame. Here are your hosts, Brandon and Eric.
Welcome back. I'm liking that intro.
Yeah, man, I love it.
Yeah,
well done.
Buddy.
Well done.
Yeah, it's another Friday night with Fantasy Fling. We are talking the Week 7 DFS Main Slates. Little rewind. Week 5 was a story of the chalk smashing, and Week 6 was a return to normalcy. Speaking of normalcy, welcome back, Eric.
Thank you. Good to be back. I was out of town on work, so I apologize for missing last week.
For sure. Yeah, you got all kinds of things going on at work, camping, but we missed you. Glad to have you back.
I think it settles down at this point. From this point forward, we should be pretty consistent.
Yeah, we are in the thick of it now. Damn, we're already almost halfway through the season. It's kind of crazy to think about. But speaking of the thick of it, the Week 6, it's pretty crazy. Week 6, it was all over the place, you know, with some of the more high-scoring games that you thought there would be. Somewhat lived up to the hype, and then there's like the Baltimore and Los Angeles game, and you thought that was going to be just a shootout, and it was
unreal.
Not at all the case.
That's just an ass kicking one way.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because you didn't expect Dak to come in as a top quarterback on the slate. Right. With Dallas, being more run heavy recently, and you look at some of these games, you kind of think maybe it's going to be Mahomes. And maybe it's going to be Herbert or Lamar Jackson with that Baltimore and Los Angeles game being a shootout, but that wasn't the case. It actually was Dak versus New England. That game was higher than projected. So Dak was first with 31.8 points. Cousins coming in number 2, 31.5. He's doing his thing. I've said it before. I think he's the most underrated quarterback in the NFL. He just consistently puts up good numbers. He may have a dud here and there, but he gets so much flack and puts up a lot of 25-plus points per games.
Only when I don't play him.
Yes.
That's when. Not in my league.
Yeah. Pisses you off in season long, for sure. And then Mahomes being number 3, 28 points. Kind of a quiet game in some respects. Could have been a lot more for him because they were running the ball. Williams got a couple touchdowns. They're running the ball at the goal line anyway. And then Stafford picking up where he left off, 26 points. And then right behind him, Jalen Hurts. Not a good quarterback for real football, but fantasy football, he gets it done.
We did have a nice, good conversation about that on the way home. Agreed.
Yes, sir. So, going over to running backs, now, we did have Henry. He was first, but that was a primetime game.
Oh, my fault.
So that was not on the main slate, but yeah, you can't tackle Henry, so he's a beast. Jonathan Taylor, I had some exposure to him in some tournaments, and he paid off. He was under-owned and smashed. And it was funny because I think he only got like 2 carries in the first half. So you look at your lines, you're like, what is going on? And then he just crushed it. Imagine what kind of day he would have had if he had gotten more carries in the first half. So he was the top guy. And then we have Mixon, 26 points. He smashed 2. I had a lot of exposure to him and Cook. So really, it was a pretty good tournament week for me, all things considered. I was Jonathan Taylor, Mixon, and Cook. Those 3 guys. I had those guys in tournaments. And then, of course, Henderson as well. He did his thing, 24 points as to round out that top 5.
Even though Henry wasn't on the main slate, it was kind of a flip-flop from last week. Last week it had JT is 1, Henry is 2. Yeah. Although Henry didn't count this week, it was still kind of 1-2.
Yeah.
I think Jonathan Taylor, he's kind of, they give him the ball, he'll do better. All right, start with the receivers. Because Dak was number 1, you have CeeDee Lamb at the top as well at 39 points. People were kind of giving up at him. He had like 2 bad weeks in a row. Although one of those weeks he caught the ball at like the 2-inch line and got tackled. But CeeDee Lamb, 39 points. Cooper Kupp, Seems like he's always in this list at the top or close to the top, 37 points. It's kind of funny. If you look at the quarterbacks at the top, you got Dak, Cousins, Stafford. If you look at the top of the three receivers, you got Kupp, Thielen, and Lamb. Kind of coincides. That's why we stack them, right? That's the point. Anyway, Adam Thielen had 32.8. A guy who doesn't make the list often, maybe once this year. Donovan Peoples-Jones, 29 points. Fluke.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things, right? That's what you play. Just it's kind of a dart throw, but that's the point.
Yeah. Well, he won someone a milli last week, and he was actually under 1% ownership. Just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jalen Waddle, he got 29 points. Part of that's, the big part of that is because it's full PPR and DraftKings, and he gets a lot of receptions, especially because everyone was hurt last week too.
Yeah, and with Tua being back.
Yeah, Tua being back, and everyone was hurt. Preston Williams was hurt. Devontae Parker was hurt. Kind of opened it up for him. But moving on to tight ends, you got your boy Noah Fant.
Yeah, buddy.
It's at the top of the list, 24.7. Although about half those points came in garbage time. But hey, man, garbage time counts, right?
No, yeah. I mean, if you look at it, Teddy had a good game too.
Yeah, technically, if you look at the overall numbers, absolutely.
Yeah, if you're looking at the box score.
Absolutely, man. Mike Gesicki, he's I'll tell you what, man. He's. I thought it was just a product of Tua being hurt. Tua came back and targeted the heck out of him, so good for him. But Fan had.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't say he had 24.7. Gesicki had 22.5. And you got Travis Kelce.
Yeah,
it's kind of a running joke because it's Kelce, not Kelsey. But anyway, he's 19.9 points. Mark Andrews, who's come on really strong in the last couple weeks as well, 17.8. And then
no doubt,
man, Ricky Seals-Jones with Logan Thomas being out, he's stepped up. He's been a pretty good pickup for tight end.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to round out the defenses.
It's kind of funny because I played Ricky Seals-Jones and I was watching that game, and he had two options on that play. And actually, Adam Humphries was open as well, wide open. And so it was a completely blown coverage. You have Adam Humphries and Ricky Seals-Jones both open. Humphries was further down the field, but he hit Ricky Seals-Jones, and then he got a touchdown. And I was excited because his ownership, well, not so much his ownership. From what I remember, he was shocked, but his price, Ricky Seals-Jones, he was 3,000. So, you got
that one play.
yeah. So 5x. That'll do it with that guy.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, defenses, pretty simple. We got the Rams, 16 points. Colts, 15 points. And I want to say the Colts were in the Millie Maker. That was a stack with Jonathan Taylor and the Colts. And, they're going against the Texans. So this is why you pay up for defenses. You pay the $3,000 for defenses in like GPPs. Cash, not really a big deal, but in GPPs, it's something you want to consider. Cowboys and Raiders, 13 points. Teddy, not good last week. So that'll happen. You'll get 13 points when you got your quarterback, the opposing team throwing interceptions. And then Cowboys, Trayvon Diggs. This dude is incredible. He's definitely the next elite corner in the NFL. I think he's got 7 interceptions in 6 games, something like that. Just nuts. I think he took one of the house on Mac Jones.
Wasn't that Stephon Diggs' cousin? It's in the bloodline. Yeah.
Their bloodline is strong, much like the Manning bloodline.
Yeah.
Or the McCaffrey bloodline.
Right.
Some of those bloodlines.
Yeah, the stud.
No doubt about it. I think you got Jones, right? The Jones bloodline too.
Yeah.
We should maybe do a fantasy draft just on bloodlines. We might have some consideration for that.
Yeah.
But Cardinals 4 and then Ravens 5. That will round it out for the top plays on DraftKings DFS Main Slate. Speaking of hot owners box, this is a hot deal. Superflex meets DFS. They are now doing a $25 match with your first deposit. You have to get on us, rake free, contest overlays, no sharks. Not only that, but every week they've been offering a free entry into a $50,000 contest, and it never fails. So it's back to that overlay, and you get to play for free. Most people who play fantasy football, they have a Superflex league. So, why not play DFS the same way? and you don't have to worry about putting in a defense. It's fun. There's no sharks. You can win a lot of money. Get on that. We will put the code in the podcast description, so check them out.
Absolutely.
Eric, I know you had a lot of things going on. You were traveling, work, you were camping. No, I don't think you played a lot of DFS last week. That's fine. We've said before, if you can't really dedicate time to it, don't play. But your hot plays, season long, dynasty, what you got for me?
Yeah, man. I guess I do have a little something, but you know what? I'll save it for another time. It's not really that great of a walk of shame. Yeah, man. Going into it, I guess we'll start with the quarter. Actually, we go with the Vegas lines.
Your hot plays.
Oh, my hot plays
last week. That's all good.
Yeah, I didn't really. For me, I didn't play a lot of DFS last week, as we mentioned, because I was out of town.
Yeah.
So I hate to use that as an excuse, but it's long hours, and then it's dinner, and it's late night, and then it's wake up and do it again. So is what it is. For me, I have a lot of Jonathan Taylor in almost everything I'm in.
Yeah.
So that's working out. It started a little slow, but it's been going strong. The DFS, which I know this is a DFS show.
Yeah.
I don't have a whole lot from last week because I wasn't playing, but for season long and stuff, I have a lot of Jonathan Taylor. That was kind of my best play of the week. You probably have a lot better than I do. I know last week was a solo show for you, so you probably have more hot plays to follow up than I do.
For sure. Yeah, I still, I rocked the show last week. I will say too, me and Eric are cousins, as I've mentioned many times before, and we did have a death in the family. So we actually were, we're at our grandma's celebration of life earlier today. So we're recording this at 9:30. So it on top of like being super busy, we got a lot going on. So appreciate the fact that you're just even joining me this week. So we can get our mind off of sadness and talk some football and have some fun.
Absolutely.
So for me, my hot plays, I had some real good performances in some of my tournament lineups. I did some of the smaller entries. I actually cashed in the Millie Maker. So if you can cash in the Millie Maker, I'll take it. But I placed second in a small tournament. And really, I was just a Keenan Allen decent day away from winning that tournament. Like, it was close. It was a 10-point difference in the tournament. And so basically my lineup, Heineke, I guess I could say, that if Heineke had a decent day, I probably would have won this tournament too. It wasn't just all Keenan Allen. I really expected, with the Chiefs' defense being as horrible as it was, Washington to be able to just score a few more points than 13.
Oh, my God, yes.
So I guess you could say Heineke crashed my lineup or Keenan Allen, but pretty much everywhere else was good. So Heineke only got me 10 points, but I had Jonathan Taylor. He had 31 points. I had Williams in that game. He had almost 24 points. I had Cooper Kupp, 37 points. Hardman, 9 points, but he was only like 4.7. 4,200 actually. Ricky Seals-Jones in that game, 3,000. And then Dalvin Cook, 25 points. And then the Colts D, 15 points. So really, Keenan Allen and Heineke were the weak links of that. But, it is what it is. I obviously just go through my lineup. I heavily stacked that KC-Washington game, and that's how it goes. So 178 points. I had quite a bit of exposure to Cook, Taylor, Mixon. So did all right. Definitely cash this past week. And like I said, I won money in the Millie Maker, but more on that on making a Millie. But yeah, my cash lineups, crazy enough, I had Heineke with 10 points, and that didn't crash my lineups, nor did Kareem Hunt, because I started Kareem Hunt in cash games because you play the chalk. But Khalil Herbert was 53% owned, and he got me 19 points. And he was 4,600, so he crushed it. And oddly enough, I had Devontae Adams in that lineup, and he had 12 points. But again, I still cashed because I had Cooper Kupp, who got 37 points. Ricky Seals-Jones, 15 points. Daryl Henderson, 24 points. So, when you got those guys really exceeding their value by that much, that's enough. So 141 points was what I scored and was good enough in cash last week.
Nice.
So that's going to do it for our plays. But you got to walk shame for me?
The biggest walk of shame is not playing much DFS at all. But I guess going back because I wasn't on the podcast last week. So to rewind a week on the Monday night game, whatever that was with Jonathan Taylor, in one of my leagues, I was winning, and I actually had the lead. He had a minus 4-yard run. I lost to probably one of the weaker teams in our entire league. So, and also for the walk of shame. I mean, I had one team where there's a big controversy in doing this, but I basically punted the week. I didn't want to drop any players that I had; they're too valuable to me. Yeah. So I basically put people on a bye who were in my lineup, which I know that's a big no-no for some. Yeah. That's a big no-no against some. Like some commissioners actually won't even allow that. But I was like, as players I didn't want to drop, there weren't the players on the waiver wire I like, so I was like, you know what, my record's okay. I'll take an L on that one. Punted it. But that's like I said, sometimes that's looked down upon. So it's kind of a walk of shame per se.
I feel like it's okay in a dynasty.
Oh, dynasties are a little different, yeah.
Yeah, I like Joey dropped the meme, the in sync meme, because it's the week 7
bye
apocalypse. Bye is like, I mean, so we do a Superflex Dynasty League. We did a startup this year, and because everyone was going crazy on the quarterback or the quarterbacks, I ended up with like Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones, and then I just kept taking guys that I really like Cooper, Sutton, and Waller, and before you know it, I got Kirk Cousins and Roethlisberger. And then fast forward to week 7, they're both on bye. So, and in this league, there are no quarterbacks. There are no starting quarterbacks on the waiver wire. So I'm like, well, this is a loss this week. Just how it is. What can you do?
We're switching. Why can't we play each other again this week?
We do. Yeah, we're in 3 leagues with one another.
No, so. I mean, if we could rewind that one, like, I punted last week. Maybe you could do it this week. We'll just switch it up a little.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's move it along to week 7.
Let's do it. So,
Eric, you want to start with the Vegas lines?
Yeah, man. The Lions, I don't love the Lions this week. There's one game that is, and maybe it's moved. Last I checked, it was 58-point over under Kansas City and Tennessee. Wow, that's when you're close to 60 on the over under.
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy.
Right.
I mean, that's going to be stacked games. People are going to stack that game hard.
Yeah.
And you got the revenge game, Detroit and the Rams, 51 over under. Mm-hmm. You got Philly and Las Vegas at 49, and you have the Washington football team. Every time I read WFT, I read it WTF, but Washington football team and exactly right. Green Bay at 48.5.
Yeah.
And then you have Atlanta and Miami at 48. So only 2 games in the 50s, and one in the low 50s. So it's not a great week for over-unders, but at least you have one that's high.
No doubt about it.
That's that game is, that's pretty high. 58. So you don't see that often. It's pretty high over-under.
Well, you know what one thing we found, looking at, for example, to just dissecting the Millie Maker, massive GPP like the Millie Maker, is oftentimes if the game environment doesn't set up for a shootout, like, don't get crazy with your stacks. We've seen a lot of skinny stacks this year, taking down the Millie Maker or just even one side. Don't do a full game stack. Just maybe do a team stack. Like, I think a couple weeks ago, we had Brady, Evans, and Antonio Brown, So you just kind of zig while others zag, and maybe you're just looking to, take pieces of certain games.
Sure.
But that said, let's start it out with quarterbacks for week 7. Who do you like this week, Eric?
Man, Mahomes, I mean, if you look back, even though it wasn't on the main slate, I think what's his name? Josh Allen. Sorry, drawing a blank. He put up 30
Sure.
plus
Yeah.
on them. I'm not saying, Josh Allen's good, but I think Mahomes is better. He's expensive this week. He's 8.4 thousand, but I mean, if you're willing to pay up, I feel like it might be a great game. They're going to put up a lot of points on Tennessee. They should anyway. He's expensive. If you want to play on the other end, though, Tannehill's a little bit cheaper at 6.9.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like Aaron Rodgers this week against, the Washington football team. He's at 7.5, but Washington can't stop anybody. They've given up points to everybody. They're trying to remember what rank they were. They were the 25th worst against the quarterbacks. So I like Rodgers this week a lot as well. So at 7.5K. Some guys, if you don't want to pay up, I feel like might have pretty good games. Tua's pretty cheap at 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
And, a GPP play might be Justin Fields. He has a shot. He's 5.3. He's super cheap, but you're going against Tampa Bay, who always puts up points or almost always puts up points. So could be taking a shot if you want to go on GPP with Fields.
No doubt about it.
How about you? Where are you at with quarterbacks? Who you liking this week?
So, there's always two sides to it. There's the cash, and then there's the GPP. So,
All right.
cash, just messing around earlier, making some lineups. Not a ton of value on the slate, so really hard to pay up this week in cash lineups. I've done this before, and I've had some horrible weeks doing that, playing Derek Carr in cash, so I pretty much won't play Derek Carr in cash. And because I don't know what it is about him, dude. He's just so Jekyll and Hyde sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'll think he's turned a corner and he's got a safe floor, and then you play him in cash, and then he scores like 7 points or even less, and then it's game over. So since week 14 last week, Jalen Hurts, week 14 last year, Jalen Hurts, like I said, he's not a great quarterback, but he has a good floor. So at 6,900, he's probably where I'm going. Just looking at some of these guys that I want to fit in my lineups, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp. If there's any chance that you're going to play a Henry, for example, you just can't do it playing Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes, for example.
Yeah.
So
Mahomes
that's
is
probably
for sure.
Yeah, that's probably where I'm going is Hurts. I do like Stafford too. If you could definitely find another couple hundred. I feel like Stafford is a pretty safe bet this week against his former team, the Lions, in cash and tournaments. I really like him. Tournaments, that KC Tennessee game, I do like is good leverage. I do like a Tannehill, AJ Brown stack, so I certainly will have some Tannehill exposure this week. Again, Stafford versus the Lions. I feel like some team stacks. You probably don't even need to do game stacks. You maybe can. Maybe you do Swift, but is a bring back option. But those are probably the small pool of guys that I'm really looking at this week for quarterbacks.
Nice. I like it.
Yes, sir.
And I was wrong on Tannehill. He's 6.4, not 6.9. Apparently, I just liked the number more, so that's why I did 6.9.
Yeah, it's selective vision.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We see what we want to see.
Well, man, you finished up the QBs. You want to start out with the RBs?
No doubt about it. So, don't get me wrong. I really like Henry. I love Henry.
King Henry.
But I don't know that I'm paying for him this week. See 9,200.
Yeah.
And really, it becomes like, is there enough value to pay up for him? Last week there was Khalil Herbert's. He wasn't on the main slate last week, but last week would have been, for example, the perfect pay up for Henry week. You got Khalil Herbert's and you got Williams and those guys. So I'm probably just messing around with the lineups that I was looking at earlier. Devontae Adams is more of a smash spot this week, so I do like him at 8,900, and I just don't see that you can fit Henry and Devontae Adams in the same lineup. So Henderson is a really good value, 6,600. He's coming in right now at 15% ownership. He has not done less than double-digit points. I like him at his price. Him, Fournette, 6,400, 15% ownership. Probably playing both of those guys. And I do have flex consideration this week with Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, and Booker kind of in that same tier as far as like pricing. You kind of talked me into it a little bit earlier, Eric. I'm not gonna lie. Just pricing wise, don't need Booker to do a lot. So it's chase volume, as
that guy's
Harris
good.
would say.
You ever
First
met him?
name Chase, last name volume.
Interesting guy.
Yeah. I will say, so like a tournament play for me, I do like J.D. McKissick, specifically with Gibson. 2 reasons. His target share has been high. I think it was like 26% last week. It was 14% on the season. And if you have Gibson with dealing with an injury and you start J.D. McKissick, like first of all, he just gets targets as is. But if Gibson can't go or he leaves the game early, McKissick, he can be in for a big day. So he's going to be a tournament guy for me. Another guy, Chase Edmonds, is kind of dealing with a little bit of an injury, but that Arizona game, they have like, what is the spread again? Let me look this up. The spread is crazy. So when you have a spread that big, you really got to think about leaning on the running backs. And I could certainly see if Edmonds is dealing with a shoulder issue, James Conner being in line for a big day. Yeah, it's a 17.5 point spread against Houston. By the way, you want to start the Cardinals defense in GPP. I'm just going to throw that out there. But yeah, you have to have consideration for the running backs in that big of a spread. I'd probably, especially in tournaments, I would have exposure to both Edmonds and Conner.
Yeah, man, that's a big spread. Dang, that's huge.
Right?
That is huge. I mean, after the Colts just whooped them like 31-3 or whatever, I understand it, I guess, because the Colts aren't that great of a team. So,
yeah,
but you never know. It's the NFL, man. You're like, oh, this is going to be a whooping, and it's like, all right, we're going to the fourth quarter, game's tied.
Right.
I like that, man. I like the calls. I'm with you on Henderson at 6,600. He was the first guy I put down. Mm-hmm. Against the worst run defense in the league against Detroit. Stay healthy. You should have a good game. Also kind of cheaper, but Hubbard, he's 6,100, and he's going against the Giants, who don't have a great run D. And they're kind of banged up on the offensive side, so who knows if they'll put up points. It may be a good Chuba Hubbard game. And this really pains me to put this down here. I'm not gonna lie, but Cordell Patterson,
yes,
6,300, man. But I'm gonna kick myself for doing this because I'm like, I can't trust him. Yeah. But if you watch the games, the offense almost goes through him. They have plays that are specifically designed just for him to get him the ball in space, and they do that over and over and over again. So I'm gonna say I've become a believer, but I kind of have. And then the last guy I put, super cheap. We talked about, it's kind of the chase volume play, like we said, as Booker for 5,500. It's pretty cheap. He doesn't need a lot to make that. So those are all cash games. You had mentioned, McKissick. I 100% agree. I'm not sure how long Gibson's shins are going to hold out. On top of the game that the game script they're likely to face. Right. Plus there was a lot of talk last week, and of course there's always chatter, but that he got punished, put in the doghouse for his fumble. Mm-hmm. That's why he didn't play as much as well. So, take that for what you will, but 100% on there with McKissick is also. And, if you want to take a shot in the dark because it's GPP, Myles Gaskin. I only say that because he has had a game with 10 receptions. I know it's a shot in the dark, but he's cheap, costs, I forget his price. It was like $5,000, pretty cheap. It's super cheap, but just someone to throw out there. They're playing like one of the worst run defenses in the league, and he has been used before. I mean, you may get 3 points, and you may get 25. He's got a pretty low floor and high ceiling, but you never know what you're going to get. So, those GPP guys. That's about all I have for the running backs. I think that all the backs I like this week are in like the 6,000 range, kind of mid to low.
Yeah.
Those three guys, and probably who I'll stick with on most of my cash games. Moving on to wide receiver, man. Until it's hard for me not to play Hill every week, just because it just takes one play, pretty much one play, and he can make his price. His price is, he's just like up there with the Holmes. He's 8,600. He's expensive, so it's kind of between him and Adams for me, who's 8,900 that you had mentioned. But the Washington defense, as mentioned, they're horrible in the secondary. Haven't stopped anybody. It's a good chance that Adams just destroys it. That's kind of why I also liked Rodgers, because I feel like that's could be a big game for points.
For sure. And by the way, Rodgers owns the Bears. If you don't know,
I love it.
I fucking own you. I've always owned you. I own.
I love it. I love it, man. I watched that. I watched it probably like 5 different renditions of that video.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Did you see though? By the way, like when they pulled up all the fan cam, like from behind the fans, and he said like it was just like spur of the moment because he looked up and some lady was
everyone's flipping him off.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, some lady is flipping him off, and then they had the camera, and there's like 5 different people that they signaled that were flipping Rodgers off.
Absolutely, man. I love it.
And by the way, speaking of I own you, Shannon Sharp, he owned DK Metcalf on Twitter. By the way, Twitter. I don't know if you saw this. You haven't been on Twitter a whole lot, but DK Metcalf. He told Shannon Sharp that he was a washed up wannabe. By the way, he didn't know who Shannon Sharp was apparently, and then Shannon Sharp was like, "I pray that your resume is as good as mine someday. I pray." And DK was just like running his mouth, and then later he came back. He's like, "You're right. I do pray that my resume is as good as yours."
It's crazy he wouldn't know who he is, man. I mean, even growing up like that, I know guys that played in the 70s and 80s, and that's
right.
That's crazy.
Respect for the game, bro.
Yeah, man. You gotta appreciate the ones who paved the way for you.
Yes.
Who paved the way?
But go ahead.
Yeah, man. I was talking about Hill and Adams, so both in the high 8 range, and then a guy I like this week, man. He's missed Calvin Ridley. He's going against the Atlanta-Miami game. Miami's defense is pretty bad. They're 20s. They're pretty bad. I don't remember what the rank is, but he's only 6,600. I mean, you normally look back at this and scoff at that for Ridley. It's like, dang. I'm willing to put the trust in him to see if he's still getting the targets. I'd like him this week. We'll see how it goes. But some tournament guys that I like, 2 guys that I really like are Hardman. He's 4,300, and Alan Lazard at 4,200. Those are all, obviously some pivots from Adams and Hill, but I like those guys a lot as well. Both cheap.
No doubt about it. For me, wide receivers that I really like, I mentioned it before, alluded to it a little earlier. I like Devontae Adams and Cooper Kupp. God, I wish I could play both these guys. If there was enough value that I could, that would be amazing because they're both in smash spots this week. And really, I would not be surprised if cash games came down to whoever you jammed into your lineup. They're both coming in at 21% ownership, and they're both $500 apart. So whoever has Devontae Adams or Cooper Kupp in their lineup is probably going to come down to whether you cash or not. And you could probably say the same for Tyreek Hill, because he's actually right between the two, and he's at 18% ownership. So it's tough. It's going to be tough. Tyreek Hill had a little bit of an injury going on. I'll be all over him in tournaments, that's for sure. And sometimes it's like, if you play Devontae Adams in cash, for example, and he does, but Tyreek goes off, and you got him in your tournament lineups. I'll roll the dice on that for sure. DJ Moore, like him this week, 7,100. There's no Terrace Marshall. He is certainly getting the highest target share in that offense. Robbie Anderson has seen a little bit of an uptick past couple weeks. If you like him, I think he's like 4,800. I certainly like him in tournaments. But another guy that I'm all in on, Chris Godwin. with AJ Brown, or not AJ Brown, Antonio Brown. AJ Brown's the next guy I'm going to talk about.
AB.
Antonio Brown. And crazy Antonio Brown. No white woman 2020 Antonio Brown. That crazy man.
No cold feet, right? No more cold feet either.
Yeah, no more cold feet either. Him and Gronk are out. Gronk's been out for a while. I think he watches a lot of film since he's been out a couple of weeks, maybe. So I like Godwin this week. He's only 5,900.
Nice.
And then in tournaments, I'm all in on AJ Brown in tournaments. If he kicked the Chipotle food poisoning, he should be ready to roll. So I don't expect Julio to play this week. He's great leverage off of Henry, who's going to be the chalk. And then with you for sure on Calvin Ridley too. A lot of exposure to him. He has certainly seen a lot of targets. 12 per game, I think, roughly since week 2. So he left the team for a little bit with personal issues, but he's back this week. Yeah, plus the bye, so he's back.
Yeah, I like it.
And then my punt, especially in cash games this week, is Bateman, Rashad Bateman. Highly drafted, high-powered offense. I think he had like 25% target share last week, his first game. So I think he's only like 3,800 or something. Something's very crazy.
That's pretty cheap, man.
Yeah, I was looking at him as kind of a cash play punt, and let's see, fantasy points per dollar. I think he's coming in. It's one of the higher owned guys. Yeah.
Bateman is 3,400.
Yeah, 3,400.
Cheap.
So I do like him this week.
Nice.
That's it for wide receivers. Tight ends.
Well, who doesn't love a tight end, man? Do you wanna start it out? You wanna start the tight ends out?
We all do. Yeah, let's do it. So one guy, I'll just start off with this. One guy I like in GPPs. He has not had a big game in a while. You're a Raiders fan. You know it. I called it last week, but I didn't call it last week. I called his name last week. He didn't have a big game last week. But they're playing the Eagles. The wide receivers are going to get the Darius Slay treatment. This seems like a Darren Waller week at 6,700. My paydown options, because I'm really not expecting to spend a lot of money this week at tight end. Just looking at value on the slate, there's not a lot. I do like Ricky Seals-Jones at 3,700. He got a lot of targets last week, had a great week last week, as we talked about. I like also Cole Kmet. He's only 3,000. If you want like a real pay down option, I'm not going any lower than that. Zach Ertz is gone. If you can pay for 4,600 for Goddard, he seems to be in a good spot this week to get all the targets at the tight end position against the Raiders. And that's one of the more high scoring games. So
yeah,
keeping it simple with that.
I feel like you were reading my cheat. Like, and by the way, we don't talk about this before.
We don't corroborate. No, we do not.
I mean, every once in a while we'll talk about some things, but we don't say who our hot plays or the plays are. But I'm right there with you, man. I have the highest guy that I'm looking at is Gesicki, just because he, being full PPR, 4,700. He's been getting a lot of targets. And Atlanta's D's not great. I like, because Ertz is gone, I like Goddard because they're in the position they're in, and Ertz, which normally you wouldn't say that because they were on the same team, but now they're not. And then the guy I like also is Cole Kmet, 3K. That's what I said. I mean, like I said, I felt like you're reading my sheet. I like Kmet. I feel he's been getting a pretty good target share lately, and I think Justin Fields is starting to pass a little bit better. I guess we'll see what happens, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, they're likely going to play from behind against Tampa Bay, and Cole Kmet's a 3K. He 6 points is all he needs to double. I mean, that's not much. That's not much at all. But man, I like those tight ends. Like I said, Gesicki's the one I'd be willing to pay up a little bit for. I know you had Waller on there, who I like a lot too. He hasn't had a big game since week 1, so like you said, we'll see what happens with the coaching change. But Greg Olsen is calling now, so might want to get him going, get the number 1 receiver on the Raiders going. Yeah,
No
man.
doubt.
And the defense is. I'll just keep this short.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you want to pay up, you know, you're probably looking at the Rams or the Patriots. If you're going to play in like a tournament, a little more expensive. If you're looking to, you know, play down and play for cheap, it's the Giants for me. I wrote down the wrong price. Sorry, it was Giants at 2,500, and the other team that I liked were the Eagles at 2,300. Only because we mentioned Derek
Yeah.
Harvey and Jekyll and Hyde.
Exactly. Yeah, I actually built a cash lineup earlier, and that's who I put in.
The Eagles.
Eagles, yeah, 2,300 based on the lineup I built. And then Cardinals, they are my go-to
Oh yeah, that's a good call.
for GPPs because the average for the Millie Maker, for example, the average pricing has been $3,000. And I'm pretty sure the Cardinals have ended up in the winning Millie Maker lineup twice. You're going against the Texans, and it's a 17-point spread. Like, how could you not play them? They will be chalk at defense. They're coming in at 15% projected roster percentage, so something to consider if you want to get off the chalk a little bit. You could look at New England going against the Jets, just a few hundred more, and they're like 8% right now. So, yeah,
Absolutely, man.
just a few easy options.
Absolutely, I like it.
Well, week 7, DFS Main Slate. That's going to wrap it up. We're about to end this podcast, and then we're going to jump right on making a millie, where we look specifically at the millie maker, what's winning, seasonal trends in the millie maker, and we roll the dice on another week of making a millie. So be sure to tune in, subscribe. We are on all the podcast outlets, Spotify, Apple, Google, and then we're on YouTube. So like, subscribe. Also, I do weekly write-ups on the Millie Maker and other GPPs like the Play Action on fantasyfootballfling.com. So be sure to check us out over there. I'm talking roster percentage, pricing, ceiling, stacks. We break it all down. So definitely check us out. Eric, you got anything else for us?
I think that rounds it out, man. You had mentioned it briefly earlier, but rest in peace, Grandma. We love you.
Absolutely. We do love you, and life is short. It's longer for some people, but in all, like you just don't have enough time. So do the things you love. That's why we're here. That's why we do this, and that's why we'll continue to do this.
Amen.
All right.
Agreed, man.
We'll see you on Making a Millie.
We'll see you then.
Later.
Out.